Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's July 31st. These are your headlines. Been hearing about some really nice striped bass coming out of the area between Downeast Maine and Boston Harbor. Also, still seeing those fun-sized tuna south of Block Island. In fact, it's going off right now with some mahi in the mix as well. And striped bass fishermen in Rhode Island are really having to watch out for brown sharks, as many of the hooked fish are getting bitten in half right now. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The ultimate fishing authority in the Northeast, the Fisherman magazine.
No guessing, just catching. New Explore Series fish finders keep you locked on fish with unbeatable clarity, best-in-class imaging options, and a stunning ultra-bright HD screen. There's more to explore, only with Humminbird.
Before we begin, we got a few news items for you guys. The first thing I just want to remind everyone, the August edition of the Fisherman magazine is on newsstands now. I just got mine in the mail today. And we got a little video here showing you everything that's coming out in the glossy part of the magazine. Check this out.
The August glossy edition of the Fisherman magazine is out now. Dave Anderson has tips to increase your hardtail success. David Germain has a great read on a Wicked Tuna alumni on how to become an effective tuna hunter. Captain John Raguzzo shares his insights on targeting the northeastern Dorado. Going deep for speed? This article is written by Ricky Frank and Nick DeGennaro on how to trick the fastest of the fast pelagics. Finally, Eric Abramson has this month's tail end. Home is where the fishing is. To get all this and more, be a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine. When you subscribe, you get 12 glossy print editions, 26 digital editions to your inbox, this past weekend's reports, plus full access to the website and more. As a subscriber, you can also be part of the Dreamboat Challenge and win a Steiger Craft powered by Yamaha and compete for a rigged out kayak from Yak Attack. Subscribe now.
And if you're interested in what's in the local edition, the newsprint part, we've got 5 great articles in there. We've got one by Mark Sadati that's all about the moon and barometric pressure and about the weather. And this talks about how these two factors come together to create peak fishing scenarios. It's a really great read if you like to be analytical about your fishing like I do. I know I'm going to read this thing many, many more times in the future. Highly recommend you check that one out. We've also got a story by Greg Vespi about night fishing from a boat. It's sort of a lost art. Not everyone's doing it these days. And this story is really kind of all about why you should be checking that out. So I recommend reading that one as well. We've got a story by Dave Pickering about storm surf in the summertime and how a little storm, even like a line of thunderstorms, can kick up the surf fishing. That's a good read as well. We've got a story by John Lee, all about sort of the simplicity of fluking and how some of that simplicity has been stripped away by higher tech fishing. And this one kind of urges you to go back to the bucktail. There's a lot of great tidbits in there about just improving your bucktail fishing overall. So I highly recommend checking that one out. And then the last one is a swim bait story by Jesse Hall. This is all about fishing skinny water for giant largemouth bass. Jesse's one of the best in the business if you're from New England, and he's sorry, my tripod's almost blowing over in the wind here. And this is a great read as well. So definitely check that out. I hope you guys will. Next up, we're going to check in with Jenni Ackerman. Here's her latest installment of Open Boat.
All right, guys, this week's Open Boat, I have another treat for you. We're fishing. We're cranking the fan out front right now, trying to get some fluke bites, and you got to stay tuned to see what happens on Sunday at 6 p.m. So stay tuned then for the airing of this week's Open Boat. I'll catch you guys out there.
Next thing, I want to remind everybody in Rhode Island that tog season reopens tomorrow. That's August 1st. You've got a bag limit of 3 fish. You got a minimum size of 16 inches, and only one of those fish in your limit can exceed 21 inches. This segment of the season runs through mid-October, and then we'll see a bag limit increase after that. Last thing, of course, is the giveaway, which is ongoing. I see a pretty steady barrage of photos, which is great to see. Giving away these custom painted Super Strikes that are done in the favorite colors of one of my best buds that passed away earlier this year. and hope you guys will get in on it as well. All you got to do is take a great fishing photo. It doesn't matter if it was a striped bass or a sunfish. It doesn't matter to me. You want to take a shot that exemplifies New England fishing and send it in to me at danderson@thefisherman.com, or text it to the number on the screen and just give me all the pertinent details, like the name of the angler, how big the fish was, you know, all the important stuff. And if you do email it, I highly recommend, or I'm asking you to please put giveaway or contest in the subject line. It makes it much easier for me to sort them out because I get a lot of emails every day. So send them in to me, and we'll see who wins. This one wraps up on August 27th, so you got about a month.
In the famed waters of Panama awaits a fishing experience like no other. Tropic Star Lodge welcomes anglers to get in on world-famous fishing action. Plan your perfect trip today. Tropic Star Lodge, the ultimate in fishing adventures for more than 60 years.
So starting things off up in Maine, the striped bass bite is really coming to life up there. In fact, this is the best week I've seen yet. Seen a lot of really nice fish. We've seen some fish up to 50 inches, you know, so that's getting into the low 40-pound class, or even eclipsing the magic number if it's a fat one. We've seen those fish from places like Agunquit all the way out to Isle of Shoals off of New Hampshire, and then heading in toward Cape Ann in Massachusetts. There's a lot of bait fish around. You've got harbor pollock, you've got pogies, you've got mackerel. A lot of striped bass activity in this area, and guys are getting it done a whole bunch of different ways. At the same time, there's also been a lot of tuna activity in that area. The bluefin that are in this area tend to be on the larger side right now. They're 100 pounds and up, you know, and some of these fish are up to, you know, 600-700 pounds. So, but the bite's been very good. So we've got a lot of stripers, a lot of tuna in that area. Dropping down into the Massachusetts area, more striped bass activity from Cape Ann down to Boston Harbor. A lot of mackerel in the area. So you've got a lot of run and gun fishing going on. These fish are on a high-speed bait fish, and you know, they're not staying up long, but the bite can be incredible when you get on them. Also checking in with the guys from Beauport Fishing Adventures. It runs out of Gloucester. The haddock bite has been really good in that area. Guys are heading out and putting some good fish on the boat, and filling the freezer as well. So you've got that to look forward to. Inside Boston Harbor itself, there's been a lot of large striped bass in this area as well. So basically anywhere north of the Cape right now is holding big striped bass. I've had a couple of buddies that are fishing that area, and they're finding some really nice fish. Some of these fish are getting up close to 50 pounds. There's pogies in the area, and there's mackerel in the area, and you know, guys are doing it with big soft plastics. They're doing it at times with some big topwaters, bump trolling pogies, and anything like that. And trolling the tube and worm has also been working very well. And this style of fishing is sort of extending all the way down through the Plymouth area. So there's a lot of striped bass up in that area as we speak right now. Crossing out onto the Cape, striped bass bite's gone a little colder in some places on the Cape, especially for surf fishermen. Talked to quite a few guys this week who, you know, many of them had pulled a skunk. So striped bass activity on the Cape right now seems to be just not so great. The boat guys are doing well on the bay side, places like Billingsgate, and then heading out toward Race Point a little bit. Outside, I haven't heard a lot this week. Not exactly sure why, but the Monomoy rips seem to be coming back to life again. I've heard of a lot of nice fish coming out of there. Nothing gigantic, but you know, a lot of fish in the 15 to 25 pound range. Soft plastics cast into the rips are working very well. Some topwater action is also happening there. Seen some big bluefish out around Nantucket. Maybe you saw the slightly viral image that went up on social media this week of Teddy Bruschi out there with a surf-caught bluefish. What I've heard from Nantucket Shoals is that it's been really slow or really difficult, to the point that some of the captains out there have actually been postponing trips. So the fluke bite on the shoals right now seems to be not so great. Crossing over to the Vineyard, there's been a few bonito around again around Hampshire. But more of the guys that I'm talking to out in the Vineyard are heading offshore. They've been going out around the wind farms. They've been finding some nice mahi, some mahi up into the mid-teens. There's been bluefin all throughout that area, up to, you know, these are more the fun size fish, you know, up to 50 inches or so. And then there've been some canyon runs leaving the Vineyard as well. We've heard about some yellowfin, some big eye, a lot more mahi, some bluefin out there as well. Basically, what I've been hearing is it's just the offshore fishing has been really, really good over the last week and a half. Even heard of some great white marlin fishing too. I think one boat had something like 37 in one trip, which is unbelievable. So offshore fishing is looking very good for the boats leaving the ports of Massachusetts. Pushing through the Elizabeth Islands, been a little bit of striper activity in there. I haven't heard of anything crazy, but I'm sure there's, some of the sharper fishermen are doing some damage in that area. Moving up toward the canal, have not heard a ton from the canal that I would consider positive. Sounds like this last set of breaking tides was kind of a fizzler. Sounds like there might have been one day that was halfway decent and slowed down after that, but we'll hear more from East End Eddie at the end of this. And then going through Buzzards Bay, sea bass fishing's been decent, and been seeing a few fluke, especially out more toward the western part of the state. And then also out in the western part of the bay, there's been some halfway decent striped bass fishing. It hasn't been crazy, but there's been some nice sized fish, and the bite seems to be sort of building. So maybe some of those fish that are over the border in Rhode Island are starting to make their way into Buzzards Bay. And now let's check in with our field correspondents, starting with Kevin Huang from Surfland Bait and Tackle.
What's up, guys? Kevin checking in with the weekly report. There's still some fish around. I heard of some micros getting caught in the mouth of the Merrimack, which is a good sign because micro means next generation of striped bass, and that's what we've been missing lately. I mean, not as much schoolies like, all these other previous years where you'd be getting like some blitzes of schoolies or small bait around the island, but there's been some decent fish up to slot size caught too if you put in some work. Usually it's like early morning when the tide lights up, or at night the guys are still catching some fish, but it's a lot more work right now because of the heat. And a lot of the fish being caught that I've heard of are in deeper water, so the boat guys are getting them, and then some guys fishing off Cape Ann in some of the deeper water catching more fish than the guys fishing the shallower water because it's a little bit too warm. But freshwater fishing up the river, there's been some smallmouth action, catfish, carp. The fishing's been good. And then squid, like I talked about a couple weeks ago, squid is on fire. So if you want to have some fun and go out during the day, it's the misconception they don't eat during the day. They do. So I would get some squid jigs and jig around some of the bridges and the different docks and the piers, and just drive around and look. There's plenty of squid from north of here all the way down to Boston. A lot of people are starting to catch them. So, and then attaches a picture so you can see a bucket of squid. Definitely tasty. Definitely worth it too if you want to have some fun. See you guys next week.
Now let's check in with Danny Parma down at Boston Harbor with Fish Bucket Sport Fishing.
Thanks, Dave. Dan checking in with this week's report. Over the weekend, we put on an absolute clinic. We boated 4 fish over 51 inches and probably 60 plus over 40 pounds. Big fish. There was a whole herd of boats in the area. So if you were fishing the Boston Outer Islands, you probably got in on that action. They're still out there. They seems like they're heading a little bit towards the Cape, but they're still around. Morning bite is definitely the best right now. Live mackerel, pogies, the mojos, the massacre rigs, the top water, the docks. They're pretty much hitting everything. You could throw a tin can at them and they're going to hit them in the morning. The afternoon bite's a little slower. You really got to work to get them to bite. We did manage, there's a bunch of fish up the river under the Tobin, and the action is still good. You just have to work for it a little more. As far as offshore, the bite's really, really good right now. We took some clients out on Monday, and they landed a 109-inch giant. So I'll be heading offshore this weekend to try and duplicate that and maybe get some ground fish. So on the next one, I'll have an offshore report. But yeah, fishing's insane right now. Stop what you're doing, get out there and start fishing.
Now we're going to check in at the Cape Cod Canal with East End Eddie.
Foggy morning here in the Cape Cod Canal. I've never seen it this foggy. I thank God for the yellow stripe down the middle of the service road. I use that to be able to ride my bike straight this morning on the way to my spot. I couldn't only see a few feet in either direction, even though I had two headlights on. So hopefully the fog lifts and I don't need a compass later to find my way back to the parking lot. So things are inconsistent in the canal still. There's a few success stories, but not many. There's still bait in the canal, mackerel, squid, silver sides, and other rain bait. I recommend small to medium-sized lures to catch these fish. The biggest ones you're hearing about are slots. And a slot this year is like a 20-pounder last year. But Joe Green Gloves Monahan, experienced canal rat and a great guy, he caught a slot the other day and a few schoolies. He was throwing a shaddy daddy, striped gear shaddy daddy on an east tide. And the other day I was throwing a hydro minnow, Yozuri hydro minnow, orange and green. I was actually thinking of Dave Anderson's friend that passed away, that his favorite color lure was orange. And anyway, I was throwing this into an east tide, and you know, striped bass will use their broad tail to slap at bait fish and stun the fish before they go after it. Sometimes you actually see them slap at a pencil and it comes flying out of the water. But this was a swimmer, and so the fish slapped at it to stun it, and he ended up hooking himself in the tail. So when I reeled him in, of course, I thought he was bigger because it was a foul hook, but it was only a schoolie. And Bull McKinnon, who has a sixth sense for finding fish, did well the other day. He caught a whole bunch of slots. He was throwing his Wally's 3-ounce white pencil. A lot of times he throws a 4.5-ounce Wally's white pencil, but this day he was using a 3-ounce, and he just kept reeling in slots. So, you know, he does well. He's done well every week. He's a great fisherman, and not only is he you know, adept at bringing the fish in, but he knows how to find fish, and that's half the battle. He just seems to be able to always find them. My tip of the week is, if you're putting on your first lure of the day and you're indecisive whether you should use a jig or a swimmer, pick a lure that's versatile enough to do both. Hurley Canal Killer, Bill Hurley Canal Killer, 5-ounce, soft plastic paddle tail, or there are many similar lures like that. You can jig with it, and then the current will rise it, it'll bring it off the bottom as it moves along, and once it gets off the bottom, the current activates that paddle tail, and that has been some of the best catch places for me, is 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, depending on which way the tide is flowing. And you know, that vibration from the paddle tail attracts stripers because they have those nerve endings in their stripes. And so, you know, it's a versatile lure. I mean, I've caught fish on the top with them too. Hurley Canal Killer really works for me. I always use white. But until next week, catch a big one.
Moving over into Rhode Island, there's sort of a battle being waged between two species of fish. You've got striped bass and you've got bluefin. Those are the two species that most of the guys that I'm talking to in Rhode Island are chasing. Striped bass fishing has been very, very good. There's a lot of fish around. What I have been hearing, though, is that these fish are either turned on or they're completely turned off. So, you know, heading out of Newport or heading out of Jamestown or fishing down around Narragansett, these guys are finding piles of fish, but sometimes these fish are just not having it. They're not feeding on anything. Other times the bite's been a gong show. Seen a lot of surf guys doing well at night in the early mornings. Kayak guys have been cashing in, and of course the boat guys are cashing in as well. But again, it's very sporadic. You know, it's either great or it's very slow. Now the The big problem that's been kind of taking place over the last 10 days, and it's just getting worse and worse, is these brown sharks. It seems like an army of brown sharks moved into inshore waters on the eastern half of Rhode Island. And most of the guys I'm talking to, they're basically expecting that they're going to have at least one fish per trip bitten in half by a brown shark. And some of these guys are having such problems that they're having multiple fish bitten in half in one tide. Now, I'll leave it up to you to decide what the ethics are of continuing to fish when your striped bass are being bitten in half over and over again. Personally, I would move. But, hey, I'm only one guy. But the other half of this is that these brown sharks are also being hooked on a variety of different things. A couple surf guys I know were hooking them on eels, couldn't bring them in, they just busted them off. But sometimes they're hooking 3, 4 in a night. Kayak guys are getting them on soft plastics and stuff like that, which I would never expect, but it is happening. And I've seen some videos, from Dustin Stevens and some other guys of these sharks, being, quote unquote, landed in a kayak. They're just pulling them up to the point that they could, touch them, and then they're breaking off. But some of these brown sharks are quite large. Some of them are, 9 feet long, or maybe even a little bit bigger than that. And it is pretty wild. Other striped bass news that we're hearing about is out of Block Island. It's definitely not as ferocious as what we maybe typically would expect over these last 2 decades out of Block Island. It's not quite as classic as that, but they're still getting some really nice fish out there. The moons are still producing the best. And live eels or soft plastic eels have been pretty much the best way to get it done. There's been some big bluefish out around the north end of the island as well. And then heading offshore, the tuna bite south of the island has just been off the chain. Had multiple guys tell me that it's blowing up. Guys are getting, 9 fish, 12 fish, 15 fish in a trip. Most of these fish are in the, I'd say, 36 to 50 inch class. What I've been referring to as fun size. I got tons of pictures of these fish. I'm just kind of running through them here. And it's been really good. We're also seeing a lot of mahi coming out around the windmills, and some of these fish are, up into the mid-teen size, which is really great to see. Also seeing a lot of little tiny mahi out there that are just getting destroyed by the bluefin. The offshore bite is definitely alive and well. Heading in along the South County beaches, still got decent fluke action there. We got some fluke up inside the salt ponds as well. I would not call it incredible. We're looking at keeper ratios of like 20 to 1. But the guys that love to fluke and don't mind running through, grinding through them, they're doing well. They're finding enough to put together a limit, or at least put a meal on the table. And we've had some striped bass lining up at the breachways as well. Now let's check in with our field correspondent, starting with Jeff Sullivan.
What's up, Dave? What's going on, guys? Checking back in with you guys this week. I'm sorry I missed you guys last week. I was tuna fishing. I didn't get back in time. But I can say the tuna bite has been on fire. Between the jig bite, the topwater bite, the troll bite. We got 22 tuna on the troll the other day, and there's nothing below 20 feet, so we had no choice but to troll and throw topwater. So we did get the topwater bite going. We had to follow those dolphins. We had to be right on top of the dolphins. We had to be finger on the trigger, ready to roll, because if you're not on those dolphins, at least that day, if you weren't on those dolphins, you were not catching them on top. So you had to really kind of be right on them. Just keep that in mind when you're out there. The jig bite's been good. The UBTs, the chatter streaker jigs has been good. Your pink glow, your sand eel color, they're feeding a lot on sand eels. But if you have something that stands out just a little bit in the water column, they'll probably target that. But yeah, Dave, it's been very good offshore. We had a white marlin in the spread as well. Didn't eat it, but it was cool to watch him just take his bill and just dangle everything around. I really wanted that white marlin though. That would have been really sick. But yeah, it's been stellar. There's a lot of blue water out there. There's a lot of life. Pay attention to the temperature breaks. Bluefin are very temperate with water temperature. So, a degree change can make all of the difference. If it's 69 to 70, that could be the difference. Just pay attention to where you're catching them, and if you're putting a spread out to cover water, just pay attention to where you're hooking up at, what degree temperature you're hooking up at, and what areas you're hooking up at. We marked no bait. There was no bait, and there was no life, but there was a ton of fish. And I don't know why, but I wasn't complaining because we just absolutely crushed them. But the more towards block we went, the more west we went, the water got warmer. We were between 69 and 75 degree water. That's a big break. So we're hoping for yellowfin. I haven't heard about yellowfin yet. I haven't seen yellowfin, but I heard they're around. So if you just go out there and throw those jigs down, you never know what you're going to get. You know, it's the beauty of offshore fishing. You just never know. But for the inshore side of things, the striped bass bite's been wicked good. Your big normal soft plastics, you know, your top waters there in the morning, your first light's been very good. And the traditional eel, I've been throwing rigged dead eels on jig heads and using that. I'll show you guys that maybe next week, but it's been killer too. You know, sometimes I like to take a dead eel, rig it on a jig head, zip tie it, rig and floss. It's been killer too. So, but yeah, Dave, other than that, it's been good. I'm gonna get back to fishing, and talk to you guys next week. Later.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites.
Thanks, Dave. Hey guys, quick video for the East Bay here. A little bit of Mount Hope Bay, and we got some good stuff starting to happen now. I think I've seen a little bit more bait inside of Mount Hope Bay and into Narragansett Bay, up towards Rumstick Point, maybe Bristol Highlands, getting into the mouth of the Warren River. The one thing I have seen in a lot of the small rivers, such as the Coles River in Swansea, the Warren and Barrington rivers up near the bridges, they're inundated with snapper bluefish, and they're about 4 or 5 inches long. They're eating small bait. That's a good sign for me, because big fluke like to eat small little bluefish. So I'll get out there with a snapper rig and I'll catch a bunch of them. Well, you can take 3 a day, but I'll save them when I go fluke fishing. I'll use them on the bottom. It's a great little bait to use. But there are lots of snapper blues around, and if you like to either eat them or you know, have fun, bring the kids out and catch them, they're in all the rivers pretty much right now. And along with those snapper blues, there's a ton of blue shell crabs. It's actually really good right now. It's post molt, I believe, and there's a lot of big blue shell crabs I've seen hanging around. So if you'd like to do that up in the rivers, getting out inside of the bay, there are some stripers hanging around. Nothing really huge, but you know, it's enough to get out to wet a line. I know it's been hot at night even, and there's a ton of gnats. If you're out there, you got to get your bug spray on. Coat State Park is still hanging out to some striped bass on the chunk off the shore. Look for some good scup fishing underneath the Mount Hope Bridge right now. My buddy Frank, he's been out there on his boat, and he's doing really well. And he actually told me he got a couple tautog in the mix, and some in that deeper pockets, the 55 to 75 foot water there. So I mean, the tautog season's not open yet, but it's gonna be. It's a good sign. Those fish have been hanging around, and I think I heard Todd Treonze talk a couple weeks ago how he was catching some tog while he was scupping. Also, it's just a good sign that those fish are hanging around still. But they're even up in the bay. So fluke fishing, there has been some good fluke over in the mouth of the Sakonnet River where it comes into Mount Hope Bay. Try fishing in that like tri-eddy there, I call it. It's like a bunch of rivers that all merge together. The Kickamuit Coles, Sakonnet River, they all merge in there, and it's a good little pocket for fishing. If you can find a couple of ledges along the shipping channel in there, you're gonna do well. There are some small sea bass in the mix there too. So hey, things are getting better up inside of the East Bay here. So get out there and do some fishing, and tight lines, guys. We'll catch you next week.
Hey Dave, Todd, Treonze, Hooked Fishing Gear. Quick weekly update. Going to target 3 areas here from a report perspective. First, I'll start with out front of Newport. It was my best week from a striper perspective so far this season. Got a fish that was 47.5 inches on tube and worm, using lead core, getting the tube down a little bit deeper. The fish are definitely in some deeper areas now. The one call about out front is guys fishing live eels are finding a lot of brown sharks. So just for folks fishing out there, be careful. I've seen more sharks out there over the last week than I've seen in my life, to be honest. Was with Dustin from Rhode Island Fishing Kayak Adventures last Thursday and watched him fight one for almost 45 minutes. We got both sides and let go. The other thing up front that I've started to do is kind of bottom fishing a bit, using crabs that I harvest before I go out. And I've been finding nice keeper sea bass in shallower water using the crabs. Live baits seems to be doing a trick to kind of filter through some of those shorts and find some better fish out there. Some good blues in the mix as well up front. I've seen blues to the mid 30 inches over the last week as well. In the harbor, it's a little bit of a different bag. In the harbor, kind of did a nice 5-hour session last Saturday off the Kayak. 5 species, but nothing to brag about. Everything's kind of small, a lot of small sea bass, short fluke. Some decent scup. That seems to be the one thing that's consistently been pretty good on the inside. And last but not least, got my first trip offshore for tuna on Monday. We got a couple recreational sized ones. It's interesting out there. If you see dolphins on top, you're probably going to find some tuna mixed in with those. One of my buddies yesterday hooked a 100-pound class tuna on top water on an RWA plug. Short-lived fight, but you're definitely seeing some of that action as well. So it was good to get out there and get my shot at some tuna as well. So that's all I have for this week, and hope you guys all have a great weekend on the water, and stay hooked out there.
Now we're going to check in with Captain John Lee from JL Charters.
Hey, John Lee, JL Charters, Point Truth, Rhode Island. We had a busy week of bottom fishing. Some of the trips were pretty solid and some were a little bit on the slow side. Again, it seems like it's tide to tide. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. The fluke, I wouldn't be scared to go deep on the fluke. 80 feet, 90 feet, 100 feet. It seems the big fluke are one of the first to start sliding into deeper water. It's almost like a pre-migration of sorts. So last August and the August before, we got the fluke quite deep. Sea bass are still up and tight, but even those are going to start to shift deeper. We had a good bluefin trip a few days back. The jig bite on those is getting started. So bring your jigs next time you go for sure. And we had some striped bass trips around the island, very sharky the past few years, but this year seems to be even sharkier than last year. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. But anyway, have a good one. Talk to you next time.
Crossing the border into Connecticut, the main thing that I've been hearing this week is that the race has been exceptional. A lot of nice striped bass coming out of there, a wide mix of sizes, but we're seeing fish into the low 40-pound class coming out of there. Some of these fish are coming out from behind Fisher's Island as well. Overall, the bite has just been very, very good. Guys are doing a lot of different ways. They're doing it trolling. Guys are 3-weighing eels, 3-weighing bucktails. We're seeing a little bit of slow pitch jigging going on. We're seeing some top water action, especially at slack tide or at first or last light. And overall, that bite out at the race has been very good. We're seeing a little bit of a drop off in that striper bite that was the inshore side, out around Niantic Bay and places like that, but there's still some big fish to be had there, and there's still a mixture of other sizes of striped bass in the area. Scup fishing or porgy fishing has been really great. I mean, just off the chain, off the charts, great. Anywhere you're finding structure, you're gonna find these fish. They're piled up pretty much everywhere. Guys are doing it from shore, kayak, and the boat, and lots of porgy sandwiches are definitely being made right now. Heading down toward the river, striped bass action seems to be holding its own on the reefs out there, from Bartlett's all the way out to 6 Mile and Southwest and beyond. That whole area seems to be doing well for stripers. You're seeing a lot of keeper-sized fish in that area, seeing a lot of really big fish in that area. Bluefish have been scarce, which, maybe you don't want to hear that if you're in the WICC, but I think that tournament might be a grind this year. So if you can find yourself a little stronghold that's holding some big bluefish, I would keep that to yourself until the tournament, because you probably have a better than average chance of taking home some prizes this year. Heading further west from there, fluke fishing kind of flatlining. I don't mean to say it's flatlining. I mean, it's kind of staying the same. Things have been about the same for several weeks now. Guys are grinding it out. Seems to be a little bit better on the New York side, but they are finding some decent fish. They're grinding through a lot of shorts, 20 to 25 shorts per one keeper. But the bite is, it's plugging along. It's not too bad. Sea bass fishing pretty much throughout the entire sound has just been okay. Seems like a lot more smaller fish around right now than there are keepers. So guys are really grinding it out to find a few keepers, and the guys that are finding them consistently are fishing very deep water. And then the striper fishing out in the Western Sound has become pretty much a nighttime only thing. But we've seen some nice fish. We've seen some fish up into the 30-pound class. Those giants that we were seeing back in early June have left, but there's still plenty of fish in the 15, 20, 25, even 30-something pound class. Live eels are going to be a great way to get it done. Chunked bunker is going to be a great way to get it done. If you'd rather use lures, big soft plastics, big diving metal lips and things like that are also hooking some really nice fish. And now let's check in with our field correspondent, starting with Captain Mike Roy from Reelcast Charters.
Hey everybody, this week's fishing report. Striped bass fishing is hot. We're hitting live baits. Well, there are big fish, mixed size of fish actually, but a lot of big ones around. The nearshore bluefin tuna fishing bite is red hot, and the tuna are getting pretty close to shore within the range of small center consoles. And the brown shark population is exploding. They're all over the place. Can't fish in eastern Long Island Sound right now without catching a brown shark. There are a lot of them. They're big. They're 6-7 footers. That's what's going on. I expect this trend to continue as we're in the summer months. So weather should stay fairly consistent and the bite should stay consistent as well. We have some openings in August. August 12th is our next opening at 4 p.m. So reach out if you're interested.
Now we'll head up and check in with Rowan Lytle.
Hey everybody, coming to you from the surface of the sun. But it looks like we're going to have a pretty significant pattern shift going into the weekend. We're going to get a lot of rain over parts of the state, and then it should cool down pretty dramatically, and that'll certainly have impacts on the fishing going into the weekend on the Connecticut River. Now, most of the rain's going to happen pretty locally in Connecticut and Massachusetts, so that shouldn't really affect the level of the main stem of the river too much. It'll probably bring it up a little if we get as much as 3 inches in some areas, which is possible. But what I would really expect is for that to bump the tributaries up, and that does mean that there could be increased good fishing just downstream of the mouths of some of those tributaries, especially for channel catfish. Now, as we go into late summer, early fall, they really get excited about any flow bump in those tributaries and whatever food that washes down. And that can mean really productive fishing for numbers on worms and really good fishing for large fish with larger chunk baits and chicken liver and things like that. But that's kind of what I anticipate through the weekend. The cold front could mean that the bass fishing slows a little bit, and then we have to go to more finesse tactics. But that can be good for the smallmouth, which are a little more cool water fish. They're not really super fond of water temperatures in the 80s, which we've certainly been seeing. So pay attention to that. You may need to go down to fairly small presentations for the bass, but could still have some good smallmouth fishing, even in the cooler conditions.
Now we'll check in at Black Hall Outfitters with Matt Stone.
What's up everyone, Matt here from Black Hall Outfitters in Westbrook with this week's fishing report. Really good fishing all around right now. It is summer, so if you're going for striped bass and bluefish, your best times are going to be early and late. That heat, especially on like a bluebird sky day, can kind of shut them down or send them deeper. Our early and late fishermen chasing stripers and bluefish have been having luck on eels, topwater. We have had like a midsummer influx of bunker here in the Central Sound. A bunch of guys every day talking to us about giant schools of bunker. Not everyone has had a bunch of fish blowing up on them, but there's a good chance that there's bass prowling around those schools. So always worth checking. You can drop a spoon down, you can throw some top water, and obviously, snagging a bunker, putting it on a circle hook and letting it free swim is always a good opportunity for a big fish near those schools. Fluke fishing continues to be really good here. We've had a lot of guys catching a lot of fish. You're of course going to pick through a bunch of shorts, but that's better than just sitting there drifting and not setting the hook. Guys are getting keepers. We had some nice ones weighed in for our try-catch clash last week, so that was a lot of fun. Sea bass, guys are getting them this week. Actually, the last few days I've had some improving reports. Central and Eastern Sound, still deep, deeper end of the reefs. Definitely gonna have to poke around for those guys, but they're out there. And then porgy, midsummer, they're hitting clams, sandworms, Shimano current snipers, all the normal stuff that you'd kind of go for those guys with. Really good bluefin tuna bite locally, right out, off south of Block, south of Montauk. A lot of guys going out. I was able to get out Monday and find a bunch of buddies are getting out. A lot of rec size fish, like 40 to 45 inches. A lot of fun on the jig. A lot of fun to cast out with a Ronzi or a topwater plug. And of course you can troll them up as well. So tons to do out here. It's midsummer. We're loving it. Hope you all can get out there and catch some fish.
And now we'll check in out in the Western Sound at Fisherman's World with Max Finch.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with your local fishing report. I just want to start off saying we've getting a lot of phone calls, people coming in asking about the brand new Stella 14,000. We did get some. They went fast on the first run of them when Shimano released them, and we are expecting them by mid next week. So if you do want one, we suggest you pre-order and pay for it. This way you are guaranteed to get one when they come in. Speaking about Stella 14s, is a popular tuna reel. The tuna bite this past week was still really good for guys that got out between the wind. We had some tournaments, Block, Montauk has tournaments going on. There's big eyes in the canyons. And then inshore though, the bluefin bite is getting a lot better. So the canyon bite is starting to trickle. We're hearing because a lot of the bluefin anglers are getting out, especially nowadays, the smaller boats are getting out there. 20, 21, 23 foot boats are getting on them. We're selling tons of jigs. That's why I'm on the jig wall. So we have a ton of array of jig selection from high-end Japanese tungsten jigs to, chatters. The pink chatters are popular, and all the shimmer falls, and the brand new sardine weaver from Shimano, which is one of my favorites. The gully, tuna ridge, the horns. We heard a lot of whispers about this horns this past week. Habs Levs off Montauk all the way to Butterfish Hole and the outer Butterfish Hole. So, they're spread around. A lot of guys are trolling during the day, side trackers, regular splash bars, and don't forget you can always troll like Ronzis and smaller daisy chains on your small and jigging outfits. So if you don't have 5 trolling rods, you can always use your jigging rods for trolling. Locally, the striped bass bite is mostly an early morning sunrise bite. I would say if you're out there for sunrise, by 7 a.m., the bite really starts to trickle down. So if you can get out in the spots when the sun's coming up, throwing some top water plugs, soft plastics like the GT paddle tails work really well, bucktails. The bass are starting to key on snappers that are about, I would say, 4 inches, and then we're seeing a lot of bunker in that 4 to 6 inch range. I don't know where they came from, either the west or the east, but they're starting to really flood our harbors and the mouths of our rivers. So at sunrise and sunset, the bass are all over them. On our deeper water reefs, the bass are still there during the day, but the waters are hot. You really got to work for them. You're going to find them in deep water during the day. Trolling wire, lead core, and mojos are going to be really good. Wire with umbrellas, and then the Nomad deep divers or Pala deep divers are also really good. There's some big bluefish in the mix. There's not a ton of them, but we are seeing, and I have seen and weighed some in around 14 pounds, a lot of 10 to 14s around. We haven't even heard of any real cocktails. They all seem to be gators, but there's not a lot of them. Porgies are running rampant. The porgy bite is on fire. Beaches, piers, docks, everybody's getting porgies. We're selling bloodworms, sandworms, clams, squid, fish bites, gulp, everything for them. So Capt Pasture Beach, Sherwood Island for your shore guys, and then guys going a little bit north from us, Silver Sands. The guys on the boats bounce around. You hit the common spots where they get pounded hard. I would venture off, try to find some rock piles. It can be between 20 to 60 feet this time of year, and who knows, you might find a mother lode that nobody's even seen. So south of Green's Ledge, 28C of course, that's cable and anchor reef. The deeper wrecks off Kopecky are really good if you can get on the wrecks. If you have a wreck anchor, trolling motor. If not, there's always drifting by them. And if you're on those deep water wrecks, the sea bass this time of year are always in deep water. So targeting sea bass, you want to be real deep this time of year. You can use butterfly jigs, diamond jigs, and then clams on high-low, squid on high-low also. Fluke reports this past week are so-so. They're not great, but they're good. So anglers are finding limits. They're out there for a whole tide though, bouncing around. We've heard depths from 30 now all the way up to, you know, I've seen an 8-pound fish come out of a 100-foot hole south of the islands this week. So bouncing around is key right now, especially after the spring we had with the fluke fishing was so fantastic. Everybody's like, where'd all the fluke go? But they're spread out. So put some time in, get some heavier drifting rigs or heavier bucktails, and go try some of these deeper water humps we have out in 80 to 100. For next week, moving on the backside of the new moon, look for the diamond jig and bite to really get going 11B on the outgoing tide. I would say in the early morning if you can catch it, or sunset. That is going to be some of the most best bass and blue fishing you'll have on this July moon. Thanks and good luck.
Hopefully that's going to inspire you guys to get out there and fish this week. It's hot, it's summer. We got a little break in the weather coming though, which, hey, maybe it'll fire things up. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine, I highly recommend you head to our website. That's thefisherman.com. We cover all the fishing from Delaware to Maine and every angling discipline you can think of and all species in between. Head over to our website. You're going to get enough free content to get a taste of what we do. If you're still not interested after that, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.